The bitter divorce, the new romance, the spectacular wedding in the Bahamas. Lately, Greg Norman's private life has been very public indeed. But through it all, he and Chris Evert have kept quiet, tried to duck reporters' questions. Then came that interview with Norman's ex-wife Laura, the one where she gave them both an almighty spray. Maybe that changed Greg and Chris's mind. Maybe they just thought it was time. Whatever the reason, tonight you'll hear the Untold story, their story, as they catch up with old pal Eddie Maguire. How and when they fell in love, their take on Laura and the bust-up, and their plans for the future.
You only need to spend a minute or two with Greg Norman and his new wife, Chris Evert, to get the message loud and clear.
Is that it? Well, we'll do another one.
See you later. See you on
They're completely besotted with each other.
You guys are good.
Keep the bidding going.
And so in love, it seems nothing else matters.
Oh, foot massage, yeah, well, you know.
Oh, we both have foot fetishes.
Comes with the flight department.
Like most Australians, I've followed the ups and downs of Greg's golfing career for years, but I've never seen the shark like this.
No question.
And it's all because of his bride of 8 months, Chris Evert.
Because he's really funny. Believe it or not, he's got a great sense of humor, and he's, he's, I don't know, he's just happy.
And I always say, my mum said it the best. She said, welcome back to the Greg Norman of his 20s. Like I was when 21, and so it's been a wonderful, a wonderful moment in my time, in my life.
But despite the marital bliss, this fairy tale is fractured. Both have been through very public divorces. Greg's was and continues to be very bitter, and made worse by the suggestion he stole his mate's wife.
Do you have respect for Greg as a man now, given the way that he has behaved to you?
Do I have to answer that question?
Greg's ex-wife, Laura Andrassy, is angry her 25-year marriage ended, and she blames Chris Evert. Late last year, she let the world know what she thought, and she didn't hold back.
And I've never, ever encountered a woman like that before. I don't have respect for her as a woman. She's a non-entity in my life.
To me, it was a very deliberate attempt to make my life that much more miserable. As a matter of fact, she actually came out with a quote. She said, I'm going to make his life miserable for the rest of his life.
Did you see it coming?
I didn't, everybody else did. I saw the interview, and to see the smiling and the phoniness and, the chuckling and like, oh, I'm okay, I'm a sweetie, sweetie. You go, this is a serious interview.
Laura's main allegations were basically that you had walked out on the family and the marriage, which obviously struck hard at you. The other one was that you cut your mate's lunch, to use the Australian vernacular.
Well, I think it was very calculating. She calculates things that way, and it's very damning. And both of us were put in an incorrect, untruthful light, and people have a tendency of grabbing hold of a piece of that.
I'm building a house in the Hamptons, so I'm really
Divorces are rarely pleasant, but usually very private.
Now, here's to me.
And that's how Greg hoped his would be.
She said that they were good buddies.
But he says Laura's interview on A Current Affair changed the rules. He now wants his and Chris's side of the story heard. First of all, Chris, Laura has accused you of being a predator, her quote.
Wow.
And basically that you'd decided that he was going to be your man and you were going to be a house wrecker. How do you respond to that?
I think her accusations come from a place of pain. And I'm shocked, astounded that, that wasn't the scenario at all. And I think, you'd have to talk about that. Was I a predator?
No, she wasn't. And I think when it's very easy to point the finger at somebody else and not yourself. It's easy to lay the blame because you don't want to take the responsibility or the burden of accepting, hey, I might have made a mistake and I might have screwed up.
Looking back on it, Greg Norman's professional and personal life always seemed pretty perfect.
This tree right here, it's called an African tulip.
He and Laura married in 1981, had 2 kids, Morgan and Gregory, and a spectacular life of fame and fortune.
But Laura, is it like living life with a rock star? I mean, he's an extremely popular man.
Well, I've never lived with a rock star before, so I really don't know.
She better not have. Ain't coming.
If you believe Laura, it was Greg who ended their idyllic marriage. And for her, it was a complete shock.
Like Morgan said, Mom, I thought you were the happiest married couple in the world. And I said, well, I thought so too.
But listen to Greg's version of events. He says the truth is their relationship had been rocky for ages. He didn't end it, she did.
We were seeing a marriage counselor for years and years and years. It's a two-way street. It's never just a one-way street. There's a reason why you get to a position in life where you got to get away from each other. And it's not just one particular person. There's a catalyst of events that take place over a period of time. And quite honestly, it really started in December of 2005. It was when we were at a ranch, and Laura basically asked me for a divorce.
Laura asked you for a divorce?
Yeah, she asked me for a divorce. She packed a bag. My parents were at the ranch. Laura says, well, aren't you going to tell them? Right there in front of them. And I said, okay, Laura's asked for a divorce. And she's leaving. And that was it. I drove her to the airport, and that's the fact. That's how the situation started to unravel.
That's it. This has done it.
Greg Norman first met Chris Evert more than 30 years ago. Back then, she was the world's best female tennis player and would go on to win 18 Grand Slam tournaments.
When I first ran into Chrissy, it was in 1976, 1977, and she was at a tennis event, and I just happened to be there, and I was in the locker room, and
The ladies' locker room?
The ladies' locker room.
Yeah.
I was actually. And I made an effort to try and go up and introduce. Oh, in 76, 77, I was absolutely nobody from Australia, right? And I always thought, wow, this person would be a great person to know because of the sporting achievements she's attained at such a young age. What goes through that mind, understanding it.
But I mean, little cases like that every few years. We had, there was always a little spark, a little jarring, and we were teasing each other. And at the same time, I think that key word is respect. We just admired each other.
Greg and Chris say their admiration for each other was always professional.
Wow.
They shared similar sporting successes. But there were other similarities. As Greg's marriage to Laura was ending, so was Chris's to skier Andy Mill. Greg and Chris turned to each other for support. But despite all the gossip, they say they were still just friends.
There wasn't any physical relationship between us. I mean, I can put my hand on my heart and swear that over my mom and dad's life and my kids' life. There wasn't any of that taking place. It was just, hey, how you feeling? Thanks for coming out, blah, blah, blah. And that's why Chrissy said there was a connection with us. I mean, a connection, you and I have a connection because we have an understanding. So does a connection mean to say that you and I are romantically attached? I hope
do
not.
find you a handsome man, Greg, I must admit.
Whoa.
Now, there's a story for 60 minutes.
But you can see how you can have the play on the word if you want to play on that word, with the connection. So
The other thing is we both went to marriage counseling, and I think that from my perspective, when I thought Greg was great, and when I started to feel that maybe there were some feelings there, I went right back to the drawing board and to Andy and said, okay, we've got problems, and let's deal with the problems, and let's talk about our future together and our life together. And
I even had conversations with her husband at the time, trying to make Andy understand, look, Chrissy's in this state of mind, you've got to work on it, you've got to do this. So if I was having an affair with Chrissy, why would I be telling Andy, hey, go work with your wife, go work on this, this is what she's telling me, this is what I see.
That's the sad part of the relationships, the breakups. But
Yeah.
there's this beautiful relationship now that's developed. Was there a moment that you just thought, were you frightened when you thought, hang on, this might all come together here?
I got to a point where there's no turning back. Then is this scary? No, because there's just no turning back. And you are aware of the consequences and the hurt and everything, but love is a funny thing. There are very few things in life you can't control, and you can't control full-blown falling in love. You can't control it.
You go, oh my gosh, this is a new space in life. You feel like, you know, there's no manufacturing. You know, you are who you are. So when you actually find each other in that, you know, the soulmate of life, if you want to call it, you know it's there. And when you get hit by it, you go, ooh, geez. You know, and everybody says, wow, God, this whole thing happened so fast. Well, you know, maybe it didn't happen so fast. Maybe it was been happening over a period of 30 years. You never know. You didn't know at that time. Okay, I think she's a cute gal, but I didn't think I'm ever going to fall in love with her. You know, you go,
oh,
you know, and then
disappointment. No.
But then it hits you, and that's what got me the most.
And we heard that he's just got engaged to Chris Evert Lloyd.
With both their respective marriages over, Greg and Chris announced their engagement in December 2007. 6 months later, they wed in the Bahamas.
Norman is believed to have taken personal charge of this security effort.
In a celebration that was a lot more relaxed than was reported at the time. Tell us about the wedding. You know, you had your own personal SWAT team, I read.
They were swatting everybody in sight. They got in the way.
Yeah?
No,
Good night.
weren't,
Good
actually.
day. Good couple of days.
It was beautiful. 3 days, and we had our, you know, closest friends and family, and it wasn't $1 million or over in excess like it was reported. Everything was exaggerated. It was very low key, and the vows were great.
Cracking shot from Greg Norman.
The happy couple honeymooned at the Pyramids, but straight after received the very unexpected wedding present when Greg almost won the 2008 British Open.
Life of the old dog in the years.
At 53, the great white shark, with his beaming wife by his side, was back.
You know, it's an amazing thing when a certain amount of burden is taken off your back, a certain amount of freedom is given back to you. So your happiness comes through in a lot of ways, and it's reflected right across the board for me. You know, I enjoy being around my friends more now than I've ever been before. Some of my friends were controlled before. I wasn't allowed to be friends with my friends in a lot of ways. So now it's great to be me.
Chris, what about you? Is it similar circumstances for you?
Great to be me too.
Yeah. You get the impression Greg and Chris are happy just to fly off into the sunset. And let me tell you, the private jet is a spectacular way to do it. Greg's an inspiration for so many Australians in so many different ways. We really need somebody to lead Australian sport at the moment.
Prime Minister.
Yeah, we'll do that.
There you go. now you turn the camera to me, no question.
Happiness comes at a price. And when you're Greg Norman, it's a lot.
I'm not bitter, and I don't.
No one's denying the settlement Laura received or that she deserved it.
I just want to make sure that.
$100 million.
You know, everybody gets hurt, and I think that everybody's moved on, except for one person. And, you know, I think that we would love to see, you know, Laura move on. You know, you hope that time heals all wounds, and to find some peace and go forward and maybe go to work or maybe find a charity. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a void in her life, is that, you know, if you have too much time on your hands to criticize people, then you must not be finding something in your life that you love to do.
Greg, what is it like, though, to sign a cheque for $100 million? It doesn't come back.
That's a good one. Well, first of all, it's good to know you got it.
And then you can laugh about it.
Well, it's a price you pay for freedom, number one.
It's a fair deal.
It's a fair deal for both.
And done.
And done.
Check cleared?
Over and done.
Check cleared. This one did anyway.